Hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So I guess we're all probably know by now that the FDA advisory panel approved, I think unanimously, the Moderna booster, and I'm really excited about it. So there's been a fair amount of discussion lately in the Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy Facebook groups page. And we've talked a little bit about the Moderna boosters. It was just recently that the Pfizer booster was approved, and a lot of us who got Moderna have been eagerly awaiting the approval of the Moderna booster. So it still has to go through the CDC, and I think that's going to be the 21st of October, thereabouts. And the CDC has the final say as to whether it will be approved, for whom it will be recommended, and whatnot. But I would be really surprised to see the recommendation vary too much from the Pfizer, not because they're such similar vaccines, because it turned out that in one very critical way they were not similar, and that is how long they last. It seems that the efficacy of the Pfizer wanes significantly sooner than the Moderna. The Moderna seems to be the one that's held up the longest, and most likely because it has that higher dose of messenger RNA. And we'll have to wait to see what the CDC says, but I do believe that it would be a little bit unwieldy to have the recommendations and who's allowed to get what, really that wildly different from each other. I wouldn't be too surprised if they said instead of 6 months, maybe 8 months or something like that with the Moderna, so that you would be eligible maybe for the booster 8 months after your second shot instead of with the Pfizer where it's 6. I don't know, I'm just speculating there, but that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't be too surprised if I saw, but I would be very surprised if beyond something small like that the recommendations were too different, because it would just become very unwieldy. So in some of this discussion that's gone on recently in the Facebook group, we've talked a little bit about going ahead and getting that Moderna booster before the actual booster came on the market or became available to the general public. And by that I mean, so with Pfizer, the booster and the third shot, they're all the same. So if you get an extra shot because you're immunocompromised, that's one full dose of Pfizer. If you get a booster because it's been 6 months or more and you're eligible, that is a full dose of Pfizer. With Moderna, on the other hand, they have cut down the dose to half of the dose in the original 2-part series, and that's the booster. If, on the other hand, you are getting a shot, a third Moderna shot, let's say, because you are immune compromised, that would be a full dose just like you had in the initial 2-part series. So some people have been, let's just be honest, we know that. Some people have been going ahead and getting a Moderna booster because they have had the third shot available. Now, it's supposed to be just for people who are severely immune compromised. I'm personally happy that there's been left with a little bit of wiggle room. I think you have to self-attest to some kind of an immune condition, but it does allow for some discussion with your doctor. I've actually had one of my doctors tell me I should go ahead and get a third shot of Moderna. That was a few weeks ago. I knew it then, it was coming up very quickly, the booster shot, which was going to be half the dose. Now it's like within days or something. So I decided that I'm going to hold off and I'm going to wait until there is a booster. Now, if this hadn't been coming up right at this time, I don't know if I would have felt comfortable waiting much longer, because I'm coming up on 9 months now and I'm starting to worry about the immunity waning. I had said in a previous video that I went and got vaccinated along with a whole number of people at a facility that I did work at. And in amongst that group, we all got Moderna. Just in the last month and a half or so, there have been a couple of cases amongst those of us who had the Moderna series all at the same time. It did have me a little bit concerned for sure. So I'm very happy that the timing of this news is as it is, so I don't have to go through this decision about whether I'm going to go ahead and get a third full dose. I do think that, when it comes to the Moderna, the thing that's a little bit scary is the same thing that's good about the vaccine, which is that high dose of messenger RNA. I think that's why this vaccine has shown to be the most efficacious and the longest lasting of the messenger RNA options. But with that came a lot of reactogenicity. And I thought at the time when we were first getting shots that I was seeing more of that with Moderna. Some people said, well, no, there's lots of reactogenicity with Pfizer. There is, but it does seem that it's far more with Moderna. That's now been studied. It's really clear. And I suspect that's part of the reason that they have cut the dose in half for a booster for people who are not truly immunosuppressed or immune compromised. So half the dose probably means a little less reactogenicity. I happen to know some people who did go ahead and get a third full dose of Moderna. Every single one of them, with no exception, experienced a great deal of reactogenicity. Not the end of the world, but I think I might feel different about it if I were a little bit older, but at my age and given the kind of reactogenicity I had with my second shot, I'm going to link the video here because I did a video both for my first and second second Moderna shot. I was one of the first people vaccinated, obviously. So judging from the experience I had with the second shot, I'm probably at risk for a little more reactogenicity than the average person. So I'm going to wait, and hopefully in the next few days, maybe a week or so, I will have some good news that I can go ahead and get the Moderna booster. One of the things I thought, and I said on a previous video, I thought was going to be really cumbersome and a real problem with Moderna's booster, given that it's half the dose, is I thought that might become really cumbersome in terms of distribution and availability, and a lot of confusion about which one are you getting. Are you getting a third shot or are you getting a booster shot? Because now those are two different things when it comes to Moderna. But I think that the concern I had was largely rooted in an assumption that turned out to be erroneous, which was that it was going to be shipped in single dose vials that were specific for booster. And that, of course, would create a lot of cumbersome issues. But it turns out that the FDA approval is for the pharmacist to draw that dose of Moderna out of a multi-dose vial. So therefore, any place that administers the Moderna vaccine can administer a booster, can administer a first, second, third shot, doesn't matter, because it's all being drawn out of the multi-dose vial. And I think that is fantastic news. So I think that's a whole lot of potential complications just off the table. Now, since I'm coming up on the 9-month mark, I think that's pretty far along with the Moderna vaccine, I am going to try to get the booster as soon as I can. I will plan on documenting on video whatever it is that I experience, but I was hoping that for those of you who did decide to go ahead and get a third full shot, if you do write any comments about it, either here, it's very, very helpful, first of all, when people share their experiences, because it's just so helpful to other viewers to not only hear what I have to say, but hear what people really experienced. I'm so interested in trying to parse out who has more or less reactogenicity with these vaccines. So it would be really helpful if people state their age, or at least your age bracket, whether you do have an immune compromised situation. So you're either an organ transplant recipient, or maybe you're on an immunosuppressant for some kind of an autoimmune disease, anything like that, because it's only helpful to hear about what the effects are, the side effects and the kinds of reactions you have, if people can put that in the context and say, well, and then people can try to figure out whether they're more or less likely to experience that same thing. So it might be, well, I'm not in that same age bracket. I'm quite a bit older, so I'm a little less likely to have that much reactogenicity. Or I am not taking an immunosuppressant and that person is, and they had absolutely no effect that they noticed. So all those things are really helpful. It really helps to give it the context. So please share down in the comment section if you've gone ahead and gotten a third full dose of Moderna, and certainly also by the time this video comes out, hopefully it'll just be days away from the booster dose. Also share if you got the half dose booster, and share what your experiences are with that, and with, again, your age bracket and some context. As some of you already know, when I had my second Moderna shot, I came down with a case of shingles. It turned out later that that became a documented potential side effect of the messenger RNA vaccines, and in fact, it wasn't just a coincidence. I have since had my first dose of the Shingrix 2-part shingles vaccine. That is a wicked one. I think it maybe rivals the messenger RNA vaccine, so I had the first dose. There's a long window between doses with the shingles vaccine. I don't want to have too many vaccines all at once, and you do get some protection for a while with the first shot. So I had the first shot just 2 months ago. I have between now and another 4 months to get the booster, and I want to wait until closer to the end of that window. So, here's hoping that I don't have another case of shingles. I think I read that in the Pfizer study out of Israel, that all the cases of shingles were either with one or the other injection when it came to the 2-part series with Pfizer. People didn't get it both times, and nobody had any post-herpetic neuralgia, which is the long-term complication that you really want to avoid with shingles. So that was really great news. I didn't either. My shingles responded to treatment and it was done, but of course I would have preferred to get away without it. So let's see what happens this time with 1 dose of Shingrix on board, and 2 months later, hopefully 2 months later, not much more, a Moderna booster. I'll let you guys know. Yeah, so one thing about these booster authorizations for the messenger RNA vaccines is that the study sample, especially with Moderna, was really small, because it wasn't like the ongoing Pfizer study in Israel where you have the entire population of citizens that you can collect data from. So with Moderna, it really was a very small group. I suspect we're going to find things that are going to get tabulated in, just like what happened with Pfizer in Israel. I think we're going to find that the real world feeds us more data and uncovers things that we didn't see in the trial group, just because it's seems to me that it is undoubtedly too small. Let's see, I was one of the first people vaccinated. I'll probably be one of the first people boosted when it comes to Moderna. Again, I'm really interested in hearing what you guys experience. I'd like to have this be sort of an exchange for Moderna, because it seems that when you're out there looking for Moderna, it's so ironic. It's shown itself to be the most efficacious and the longest lasting between the two messenger RNA vaccines, but there is the least amount of information. It didn't win that opportunity to become the vaccine for the entire Israeli population. So let's hope that with some more time and a lot of discussion in various forums, not only in mine, that we can uncover some more information about Moderna and how people are doing with the boosters. Also, let me know if you're planning to get the booster, or if you're planning to wait. I have heard some people say that, they had Moderna and they feel like it's such an efficacious vaccine, and the breakthrough cases they had seen themselves have been so mild that they're not so sure they want to get the boost at all. I want to get the boost, but I can totally see that perspective. So let me know what yours is. And I guess let's continue this discussion, over the next weeks and months, and see what happens as the boosters roll out now that we've got these two down. And I think that next time we speak, we'll probably have J&J as well. Let me know what you guys are doing with this. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.